I would just love to hear you talk a little about you and books. Like, how did it start? How does it remain so central to you that you write books about books?
Well, I think like many lonely children, I grew up in a family of 5 children, but I think a lot of kids seek it out. But I just, I'm old-fashioned. I really think that literature is transformative, and I'm always trying to reenact that in whatever kind of writing I do, whether it's in the criticism that I write or the memoirs that I write, which keep alluding to these other works. I mean, for me, that it has always been the case that thinking about literature has, changed my life. I mean, literature did change my life, and it is always good to think about. And, I'm not exactly sure how it got started, but whenever I do interviews and stuff like that, people always say, oh, well, you do these 2 very different kinds of writing. You do these memoirs, and then you're a critic, and not just literary critic, but, I write about movies, I write about opera, I do all these things. And I always say, I'm not, it's not like you go to work on a Thursday and you say, oh, today I'm wearing my critic hat, and on Monday I'm a memoirist, I think everything that I write is just about the pleasure that you get from thinking about these objects, these texts, and they're so interesting and you love them. That's also why I teach, we both teach, right? And I think they're great. I think they're great, and I want people to see how wonderful they are. And when I'm a critic, I want to show people how they work or sometimes don't work, But it's the mechanics are so interesting. And then when I'm writing these memoirs, it's interesting to think about Noah and the Ark when you're thinking about the Holocaust. It's not just some idle, because to say that, to be writing, as I did in this book, an account of how members of my family perished in this little town, from whom very few people survived, to think about the story of Noah and the Ark is I think to gain a kind of comfort, to realize that this story, even though this is just one instantiation of it, has been part of Western culture from the beginning. We've always been worried about this, and that to me is an amazing fact, that there is, one of the things, I guess, from studying literature that you realize is that nothing ever changes. The gadgets get better, I guess, But and I think that's great, That's why people always say, because I'm a classicist by training, and people always say, oh, why read the classics, I said, because nothing has changed.
Right.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
You want to know about Donald Trump? Read Thucydides. It's already there. But that's why we're in a great business, I think. And look, some people do it. So you could say, oh, well, all literature is influenced by all other literature. And this is true. People may not know they're writing about, making literature out of literature. We do it in we're putting our cards on the table from the beginning sometimes. We're saying, I'm thinking about this text, the Odyssey, Virginia Woolf, whatever. But I find that comforting. I guess as a nonfiction person, I never have to worry about being original, So people say, why don't you write a novel? And I always have the same response. It's if you paid me $1 million, I couldn't make up a story. I could literally not say oh, the chicken crossed the road. That would exhaust me for 2 weeks,
It is exhausting, it's true.
It's interesting because I think, because human nature doesn't change, all literature is always true. It doesn't matter how old it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as somebody who started reading great books, like mid-teens or so, not earlier than that, but I came to books at a certain point, and I love the idea that the stuff of great literature, the Odyssey, Mrs. Dalloway, you name it, is right here. And that's really important to me. The idea, just for my own purposes, that why study classical literature? I feel like, well, why wouldn't you? But why pay attention to the world around you and not just shut yourself off and read books? You want to do both, and it's just so important to me to be constantly mindful of the fact that everything we've read and loved is happening right now in this room.
Yeah, but that's what I always try to tell my students. They don't, the clothes are different, the gadgets are different, but everything else is the same.
Yeah.
But I find that comforting. I don't worry,
too.
Everybody wants to invent the wheel again, but the wheel is the wheel, But that's okay, I think that's totally okay.
Yeah.